Sophie Cunningham is sticking with the Fever. The team just announcing they re-signed her. ESPN reporting she agreed to a one-year deal to return. This will be the guard's second year with the Fever since being traded from the Mercury. Now, she only appeared in 30 games last season because of an injury, but she still finished fourth on the team in scoring.
Sophie Cunningham just made a career move that has the entire WNBA community doing a double take, leaving fans absolutely stunned. You see, the league's sharpshooter had some incredibly clear, very personal goals as she headed into this crucial offseason. We're talking about financial security, long-term stability, and the deeply personal desire to finally settle down and build a life. These weren't just passing thoughts. They were the foundation of what she was looking for.
And the Fever at 3 p.m. Eastern and ABC Monday. This series will be back in Oklahoma City for Game 5.
And then the Indiana Fever came calling. But it wasn't just the Fever. It was the Fever with Caitlin Clark at the helm. And just like that, everything changed completely. The sheer scale of what Cunningham gave up to run it back with this supercharged Fever team is sparking major conversations all across the league, questioning what players are truly willing to sacrifice for a shot at a championship.
That's what she said she wanted. A big contract, long-term security, the ability to settle down somewhere and build a life. Those were her stated goals heading into free agency.
So let me throw this out to you right now, because I need to know what you think. Drop a comment below and tell me, did Sophie Cunningham make the absolute right call, sacrificing that coveted long-term security to be a part of the Caitlin Clark phenomenon? Or, when it comes right down to it, should she have prioritized getting that big paycheck and settling down somewhere else?
Indeed the case. Sophie back with Indiana on a one-year deal. That part of it is sort of interesting just because she had said on her podcast previously, I forget the exact wording, but basically the idea was that she wanted to be able to like settle down somewhere and feel cozy and wanted a big contract in that sense. So, a big contract I'm sure applies monetarily, but also maybe, annually as far as the years that are on it. But this is not that. So perhaps Sophie sacrificing that sort of security in order to run it back with the Fever. Of course, it was great for her career to play with the Indiana Fever, to play alongside Caitlin Clark.
All right, let's break this down. Sophie Cunningham has officially re-signed with the Indiana Fever, a move that on the surface seems like a pretty straightforward, no-brainer decision. A beloved fan favorite is returning to the team that just wrapped up the most successful season in its entire franchise history. It's a reunion that fans were clamoring for. The now famous Leches trio, consisting of Cunningham, the phenom Caitlin Clark, and the ever-reliable Lexi Hull, is back together and ready to make another run. Everything's looking fantastic, right? A perfect storybook scenario. Except, it's not that simple. When you actually dig into the nitty-gritty details of Cunningham's new contract and then compare it to what she explicitly said she wanted this offseason, this decision becomes way more complex and frankly more shocking than it first appears. Let's rewind the tape for a moment and listen to what Cunningham herself was saying during the offseason on her podcast. She was incredibly crystal clear about what she was looking for in her next big contract. Her priorities were laid out for everyone to hear. She wanted serious financial security. She wanted a long-term deal, something that would finally give her the foundation to buy a house, truly settle down, and experience some much-needed stability in her life outside the chaos of professional basketball. And you know what? Those are completely reasonable, totally understandable goals for a 30-year-old professional athlete who has been grinding it out in the demanding world of the WNBA for years. Think about it. This isn't some rookie asking for the moon. This is a seasoned veteran who has put in the work and is looking for the kind of security that reflects her dedication and talent. Cunningham has been a force in this league ever since she was drafted back in 2019. Her journey has seen her bounce around a little bit, playing for Phoenix before ultimately finding a crucial role in Indiana. Over the years, she has proven herself time and time again as an incredibly valuable 3-and-D wing, a player who can consistently knock down crucial shots from beyond the arc while also playing tough, physical defense that frustrates opponents. She might not be a megawatt superstar with her own signature shoe, but make no mistake, she is exactly the kind of essential role player that championship-contending teams are built around. And after years of proving her worth on the court, day in and day out, she understandably wanted to cash in with a significant, multi-year contract that would finally grant her some well-earned financial peace of mind. That is precisely what she said she wanted. A big, life-changing contract, the kind of long-term security that lets you plan for the future, and, most importantly, the ability to finally settle down somewhere and start building a real life. Those were her publicly stated, non-negotiable goals as she headed into the high-stakes world of free agency. And then, in a move that caught everyone off guard, she signed a one-year deal with the Indiana Fever. Just one single year. Think about what that means. Absolutely no long-term security, no massive multi-year payday, and certainly no immediate ability to buy that house and settle down in the exact way she had so passionately described she wanted to. So what on earth happened here? Did Sophie Cunningham just have a sudden, dramatic change of heart about everything she wanted for her future? Is it possible that no other teams in the league were willing to offer her the better, more secure deals she was looking for? Or, and this seems like the most plausible explanation, did she make a conscious, calculated decision to sacrifice her own personal goals in order to chase a championship ring alongside Caitlin Clark and the rest of the Fever? Based on every piece of available information and the context surrounding this decision, it overwhelmingly seems like the answer is the latter. She chose the team over the contract, and that right there is precisely what has fans and analysts so completely shocked. WNBA commentator Robin Lundberg absolutely nailed it when he broke down this whole situation. He astutely pointed out that Cunningham had not been shy or vague. She had explicitly and publicly talked about her desire to settle down and secure a big long-term contract. And then, she turned right around and signed a one-year prove-it-style deal with Indiana. His final assessment was sharp and to the point. Cunningham is actively sacrificing that very specific kind of security in order to run it back with this particular Fever team. And let's be honest, that is exactly what this looks like from every conceivable angle. This wasn't a failure to get a better offer, it was a choice. What this boils down to is that Sophie Cunningham is betting on herself, and perhaps even more, she's betting big on the Indiana Fever. She is rolling the dice, gambling that one more year in the electrifying atmosphere of Indiana, playing alongside a generational talent like Caitlin Clark in what could very well be a championship-caliber season, is ultimately worth more in the long run than taking a safer, multi-year deal with another team right now. Or perhaps she just genuinely values the rare opportunity to win and be a part of something truly special, more than she values the immediate comfort of financial security. You see, maybe she believes that if the Fever go on an incredible run and she plays a key role in that success, she'll be in a position to command an even bigger, more lucrative contract next year. Either way you slice it, it's a massive sacrifice. There is absolutely no getting around that fact. Cunningham made it explicitly clear that she wanted long-term stability for her life, and yet she deliberately chose a path of short-term opportunity instead. Now, it's important to state that this isn't a criticism of her decision in any way. It's simply a fact of the situation. And it certainly raises some incredibly interesting questions about what professional athletes are truly willing to give up when they are in hot pursuit of team success. Let's really dive into what Sophie Cunningham is actually giving up by committing to a one-year deal. First and foremost, the most obvious sacrifice is financial security. A one-year contract means she will be right back in the unpredictable whirlwind of free agency next year, and that brings with it a tremendous amount of uncertainty. What if she suffers a serious injury this season? It's a brutal reality of the sport. What if the Fever's front office decides to go in a completely different direction with their roster next year? What if the league's salary cap situation changes in an unexpected way, and teams simply don't have as much money to spend? Every single one of those scenarios represents a very real risk that Cunningham is willingly taking on by not locking in a guaranteed multi-year deal right now. And beyond the money, she's also giving up that deeply personal ability to settle down in the way she so clearly expressed she wanted to. You can't just go out and buy a house and start putting down roots when you have no idea where you're going to be playing or living next year. It's nearly impossible to make any kind of long-term personal plans when your entire employment situation is completely uncertain beyond the next 12 months. So, when you look at the big picture, Sophie Cunningham is essentially putting her personal life on hold for at least another year. And she's doing it all for the chance to chase ultimate success with this Indiana Fever team. It's a testament to her competitive fire, but it's also a stark reminder of the personal costs involved. Now, let's inject a little bit of playful sarcasm here, because we need to be real about what's truly happening. Sophie Cunningham is sacrificing her clearly stated personal goals for one massive reason. Caitlin Clark is just that much of a gravitational pull. The sheer opportunity to play with Clark, to be a core part of the most-watched team in the entire WNBA, and to have a legitimate shot at competing for a championship, well, that package is apparently worth more to Cunningham right now than financial security and personal stability. And honestly, that single fact tells you everything you need to know about the colossal impact Caitlin Clark is already having on this league. Think about it. Cunningham isn't some wide-eyed rookie who is just starstruck and excited to be around a superstar. No, she's a savvy, proven veteran who has been in this league for years and knows exactly what she's worth on the open market. And yet, she's still willing to take less money and significantly less long-term security just for the chance to play with Clark. That, my friends, is the Caitlin Clark effect in full, undeniable action. Players want to be in her orbit. They see what's happening in Indiana, they feel the energy, and they want to be a part of what she's building. And as we're seeing, they are willing to make some pretty significant sacrifices to make that happen. The Leches nickname that Cunningham, Clark, and Lexi Hull have so enthusiastically embraced is so much more than just a cute, trendy social media thing. It truly represents a genuine chemistry and a powerful connection between three players who clearly and genuinely enjoy playing basketball together. You can see it in their interactions on and off the court. It's also worth noting that Hull just re-signed with the Fever as well, and her message about wanting to run it back with this specific group was just as clear and emphatic. These players truly believe in the culture and the potential of what the Fever are building, and they're demonstrating a powerful willingness to bet on themselves and on each other. But let's not get it twisted and pretend this is purely about friendship and good vibes. This is professional sports, after all. Sophie Cunningham is making an incredibly calculated gamble here. She's betting that playing in the massive spotlight that surrounds Caitlin Clark will inevitably raise her own profile, dramatically increase her visibility, and ultimately make her a more valuable asset when she hits the free agency market again next year. And you know what? She's probably right about that. The Indiana Fever are without a doubt the most watched team in the WNBA right now, and it's almost entirely because of Caitlin Clark. Every single one of their games is broadcast on national television. Every highlight clip goes viral across all social media platforms. Legions of fans who never cared about the WNBA before are now actively tuning in just to watch Clark play. And by simple extension, players like Cunningham and Hull are getting way more exposure and screen time than they would ever get playing for any other team in the league. That kind of exposure has tangible, monetary value. It directly translates to endorsement opportunities, a massive increase in social media followers, and crucial name recognition that extends beyond hardcore basketball fans. All of those things can dramatically increase a player's earning potential, both on and off the court. So even though Cunningham is taking a risk with a one-year deal for now, she's simultaneously positioning herself to potentially cash in on a much bigger scale next year, assuming everything goes according to her plan. But here's the flip side, and it's the part that makes this such a nail-biting gamble. What if it doesn't go according to plan? What if the Fever, despite all the hype, don't win a championship? What if Cunningham's role on the team diminishes for some reason or her shooting percentages suddenly drop? What if the worst-case scenario happens and she gets injured? Every single one of those potential scenarios could severely hurt her market value next offseason and make it much, much harder for her to get that long-term, high-value deal she originally wanted. That is the razor's edge she's walking. That is the high-stakes gamble she is taking. There's another critical factor to consider here, and that's her age. Sophie Cunningham is 30 years old. Now, that's not old by any normal human standards, of course, but in the compressed timeline of WNBA years, she's definitely getting up there. The window for an athlete's prime earning years is notoriously short. The reality is, she doesn't have an unlimited number of years left in her professional career. So, every single year she spends on a short-term contract is another year she isn't actively building toward that long-term financial security she desires. At some point, the clock will demand that she cash in and get that multi-year contract locked down. The million-dollar question is whether waiting one more year is the strategically brilliant move, or whether she's potentially leaving a life-changing amount of guaranteed money on the table right now. Only time will tell if this gamble pays off. Now, let's flip the script and talk about what the Indiana Fever are getting by successfully bringing Cunningham back into the fold. They are getting a proven, lights-out three-point shooter who is absolutely essential for spacing the floor for superstars like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. They're getting a tough-as-nails defender who is never afraid to get physical and take a charge for the team. They're also getting a crucial veteran presence in the locker room, a player who knows her role inside and out and doesn't need the ball in her hands to be incredibly effective. All of those qualities are incredibly valuable, if not essential, for a young team that is seriously trying to win a championship right now. Cunningham's elite shooting is particularly important because it forces opposing defenses to respect her on the perimeter at all times. This, in turn, opens up those critical driving lanes for Clark to attack the basket and creates more space in the post for Boston to operate. If defenses are able to sag off Cunningham and pack the paint, it makes everything infinitely harder for the Fever's entire offensive system. But if Cunningham is consistently knocking down threes at a high clip, defenses have to stay honest, which creates more space for everyone else to thrive. Her defense is also an absolutely crucial component of her value. Cunningham has shown she is more than willing to guard the other team's best perimeter player and make life as difficult as possible for them all night long. She's not necessarily a top-tier elite lockdown defender, but she is scrappy, incredibly physical, and she absolutely does not back down from anyone. That's exactly the kind of gritty, defensive mentality the Fever need if they're going to compete with the powerhouse teams like Las Vegas, New York, and Connecticut. The chemistry factor also cannot be overlooked or understated. It's clear to anyone who watches them play that Cunningham, Clark, and Hull have a fantastic relationship, both on and off the court. They genuinely play well together. They communicate effectively. They trust each other implicitly. That kind of authentic chemistry takes a long time to build from scratch, and the Fever would have been taking a massive risk by letting Cunningham walk and trying to replace that synergy with someone new. So, from the Indiana Fever's perspective, bringing Sophie Cunningham back on a one-year deal is an absolute no-brainer. It's a huge win for them. They get to keep a valuable, high-impact contributor without having to commit long-term money that could potentially limit their financial flexibility in future seasons. It is, for the front office, a perfect scenario. The real question, the one that everyone is debating, is whether it's ultimately a win for Sophie Cunningham herself. And that's where opinions are going to be sharply divided. Some people will argue that Cunningham made an incredibly smart move by betting on herself, her team, and positioning herself for an even bigger payday next year. Others will argue that she's taking a completely unnecessary risk by not securing her long-term stability when she likely had the chance to do so. And you know what? Both of those perspectives have a lot of merit. There's a valid argument to be made on both sides of this fascinating decision. What we know for sure is this: Sophie Cunningham is making a conscious, deliberate choice to prioritize winning and the success of her team over her own stated personal and financial goals. She explicitly said she wanted long-term security, and yet she chose to take a one-year deal instead. That is the definition of a sacrifice, and whether or not that sacrifice ultimately pays off for her remains to be seen. The broader context that's so important to understand here is that the WNBA's current salary structure makes these kinds of decisions incredibly difficult and high stakes for the players. The maximum contracts in the WNBA are still relatively low, especially when you compare them to other major professional sports leagues. Even the highest-paid players in the league aren't making the kind of truly generational wealth that we see NBA or NFL stars accumulate. So, when dedicated role players like Sophie Cunningham are trying to maximize their earnings and secure their financial futures, every single contract decision matters immensely. There's very little room for error. It's highly probable that Cunningham could have gotten a multi-year deal with more guaranteed money from another team, but she chose to come back to Indiana on a one-year deal because she believes in what the Fever are building. That is undeniably admirable. It's also incredibly risky, and you can understand why fans are genuinely shocked that she's willing to make that kind of personal and financial sacrifice. It speaks volumes about her character and her belief in this team. The Leches reunion is undoubtedly going to generate a massive amount of excitement and hype heading into next season. Fans absolutely love the visible chemistry between Cunningham, Clark, and Hull. They love the nickname. They love watching the on-court connection that seems to get stronger with every game. And bringing that entire group back together is guaranteed to create a huge buzz and sell a ton of tickets. But it's crucial to remember that underneath all of that excitement and hype, there's a very real, very human decision that Sophie Cunningham made. A decision to put the goals of her team ahead of her own personal security. So there you have it, the full story. Sophie Cunningham has sacrificed her stated personal goals of financial security and long-term stability to run it back with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever on a one-year deal. Whether that massive gamble pays off in the end is a story we'll all be watching unfold. If you want full coverage of the Fever's chase for a championship, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now I have to ask you one last time, do you think Cunningham made the right call or not?